lose it. I'm gonna lose it. Whatever happens in Cabo stays in Cabo. What a conversation to have days before you're getting married. Buckle up, because from this point onward, it's a doozy. It's a doozy. Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the finale for the Summer I Turned Pretty series. We are focusing on book 3 in this video, and dare I say it's the best book in the series? Dare I say that because, ooh, it's messy, and ooh, it made me cringe and made me feel uncomfortable and made me frustrated out of my mind. But I was kind of living for it. So let's hop into it. If y'all enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the like button because it does help a girl out. And if you want to see more content from me, make sure that you're subscribed. Without further ado, here's book 3 in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. While was growing up, every single Wednesday, her and her mother would sit on the couch and watch a musical together. But by far her favorite was Bye Bye Birdie. Now, I don't know if y'all have ever seen Bye Bye Birdie. Let me just tell you right here, right now, that the main love interest name is Conrad. And there's a song in this musical that goes, "We love you, Conrad, we love you so." And that is all Belly would just sing around the house over and over and over again. "We love you, Conrad, we love you, Conrad," because our girl was in love with actual Conrad, and she took this as a sign. It was her favorite thing ever. Now, if I were you, I would keep this information stored in the back of your head because it is going to come up later in this book. And by later, I mean at the very end of this book. So just store the little information. We'll come back to it. Belly has only ever loved 2 boys, and they both happen to have the same last name, Fisher. She loved Conrad first, and this was a one-time only kind of love. It was reckless, it was foolish, it was dizzy, it was all-encompassing. And then next, she loved Jere. And Jere knew the current Belly, the college-era Belly, and he loved her. Now that is all the book says when it is describing her and Jeremiah's love. It does not go through any of the details like it did with Conrad. It's not all-encompassing, dizzy, foolish, crazy. He just knew her. He knew Belly. And that was that. With all of this in mind, Belly always knew that one day she was going to have the last name Fisher. She just didn't think it was going to happen like this. This leads us into chapter 1. Let's get into it. Belly and Jere are dating and they are in college. It is during their finals week. Belly actually ended up at the same college as Jeremiah. Now, who's to say if she went because this is the school she wanted to go to, or if it was just because her boyfriend went? I don't know. Laurel seems to think it's just because Jere went there. But I don't know. We're not Belly. Who's to say? She also ended up at the same school as Taylor, which is really, really interesting because in the previous book, one of their biggest issues is Belly was trying to tell her, like, hey, we're not going to end up at the same college together. And they did. Taylor and Belly also made a new friend named Annika. Now, I do not have a picture of Annika because Annika hasn't been cast yet. So I've taken Nicole's name off of Nicole's picture, and for now, Nicole is Annika. So pretend she's Annika. Okay, you're Annika. Welcome, welcome. Annika and Belly's friendship is completely different than Belly and Taylor's friendship because Annika is very laid back. She is judgment free, and Belly feels like she can actually be herself around Annika instead of trying to be what others want from her. Now, as I said, it is finals week, so Belly got up, she went to go take her exam, and when she finished, she went back to her dorm, and who does she find in her bed fast asleep, snoozing the day away? Jeremiah. And I would also like to note that on the bed with Jere is Junior Mint, her stuffed polar bear that y'all remember the story of how she got because Conrad won it for her when I think she was like 10, maybe 12, and she brought it to college with her. All right, let's do a little backstory on Jere and Belly's relationship. Let's fill in the gaps because the last thing you and I remember from book 2 is Jere and Belly were making out in the car when Conrad saw them after he finished his exam. There was an awkward motel moment, and that's really all we got. So here's the backstory. Jere and Belly officially started dating her senior year of high school. During her senior year of high school, she applied to the same college that Jere was currently at. Again, who's to say if it was because he was already there or maybe she was just really interested in the school. But it's called Finch University. And in book 2, she never once mentioned that she wanted to go to Finch University. But again, who's to say what her thought process was because we don't see that information. We don't get to be in her mind for that part. We'll say that she mentions that there is a plus to her being at the same school as Jere because she doesn't just get him for the summer, she gets him for all the seasons. So that was a very big motivator for her in going to Finch. And that's really all the background that they give us. I kind of wish there was a little more instead of just hopping into the relationship, but the books are under 300 pages, so I really can't ask for anything. Now, if you're like me, you really could have predicted this right off the bat, but Jeremiah's in a fraternity. He is a frat bro through and through, and his fraternity's throwing a party tonight to celebrate the start of summer. And this is really his last hurrah for a little bit, because once summer starts, he's going to be interning with his dad, and Belly is going to be a waitress at a local diner in her town. Belly tells Jere that she's going to meet him at the party, but as she's walking there with her friend Annika, she actually sees that Jere is sitting on a bench outside of her dorm, waiting for her and to surprise her so that they can walk and go in together. And Belly is currently wearing this dress that when Jere sees her, he looks at her and goes, "You look like you're in The Sound of Music, but in a hot way." And Belly is standing there like, what does that mean? And honestly, same, because what? So I'm just trying to picture and envision her outfit to where he would literally say she looks like the hot version of Sound of Music. And I couldn't tell you what that means / what she's wearing. But very funny statement from frat bro Jeremiah. At the party, girls keep coming up to Jere left and right being like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you so much. Oh my goodness, so happy to see you. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness," and giving him a hug every single time. And Belly's just like, okay, I'm right here too. And since she's a little annoyed by this, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go upstairs, go drop my stuff off in his room. I'll come back downstairs, no big deal. When she does make her way back to Jere, she sees that he's talking to someone named Lacey Barone. Lacey. Oh, Lacey. Whew. And when Belly goes over there, she sees that Lacey's being a little flirty with Jere, not just hugging, but like touching a little bit, being like, ha. And Belly's not happy by this one bit at all. Not happy, not happy. And to fuel the fire, Taylor has been telling Belly that Lacey has a thing for Jere. She's got it bad for Jeremiah. And so when Belly shows up for the conversation, Jere doesn't think anything of it. He's like, oh my gosh, come on over here. Lacey was just telling us how she's gonna be studying abroad soon. And honestly, there's just an awkward vibe / tone to this conversation. It could be because in the back of Belly's mind, she's like, oh, Taylor told me that this girl, Lacey Barone, has a thing for my man. Or it could be because of something I'm gonna talk about very, very soon. Whoa, crazy. Just you wait. Just you wait. Belly is currently thinking to herself like, wow, I am so proud of Jeremiah. Everyone loves Jeremiah. Like, he is the right choice for me. He is the one for me. Later at the party, Jere and Belly, they're dancing on the dance floor. They're having a good old time, and someone spills a drink on Belly. And so Belly looks at Jere and she's like, no big deal. I'm gonna go to the girls' bathroom. I'm gonna clean it right up. I will be right back. She's in the bathroom. She's getting cleaned up. I believe she's like right by the door, so she can hear everything that's happening on the other side of the door still at the party. She overhears Lacey Barone say, he looks so hot tonight, doesn't he? And the girl talking to Lacey Barone goes, oh yeah, Jere is always so hot and I'm so jealous that you hooked up with him in Cabo. Lacey Barone then says, whatever happens in Cabo stays in Cabo. And that is when Belly decides to walk out of the room, and the girl and Lacey Barone are like, and Belly is like seeing red. She is so confused. She is like, what is happening? What does this mean? Does this mean that Jere just cheated on me? Like, where do we go from here? And this is like the start of the mess in the book. So as I said, buckle up. While all these thoughts are going through Belly's mind, she sprints up the stairs to Jere's room. She locks herself in there, and she just keeps hearing Lacey's voice over and over and over going, whatever happens in Cabo stays in Cabo. Whatever happens in Cabo stays in Cabo. Over and over and over on a loop. And Belly's finally over it, saying, you know what, I just need to hear this from Jere. That is the one person who can tell me what actually happened. I don't need to jump to conclusions because of Lacey Barone. I just need to hear what happened. So immediately she goes find Jere. And as soon as she finds Jeremiah, she grabs him and she blurts out, did you hook up with Lacey Barone during spring break? And when I tell you, this boy's face turns white and he just goes, what? Belly is starting to repeat herself going, did you? And before she can even finish the sentence, he goes, Belly. And in that exact moment, she knows in her heart that it's true, that he did indeed hook up with Lacey Barone when he was in Cabo. Jere is literally trying everything to get through to Belly, saying, we were on a break, it didn't mean anything, we were on a break. Someone cue Ross from Friends right now, because that is really, really the vibe that he is throwing down. And Belly is just like, we knew that it really wasn't anything. We were only on a break for a week, and it wasn't a break because we both knew we were getting back together. To make matters like a little worse, in my opinion, he keeps going, it didn't mean anything, it didn't mean anything. I tried to make it not happen. She just kept following me around all week long, and I just didn't know what to do. It just happened. What? What? Belly is looking at me like, be quiet. Stop talking. Jere's not listening to that. He keeps going, saying, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. A mistake, Belly says. A mistake is leaving your shower shoes in the shower until they get moldy. A mistake is leaving the toothpaste open on the counter so toothpaste gets all over the place. That is a mistake. You got with Lacey Barone. That's not a mistake. You actively did that. Now, I don't agree with Belly too often, but she does make some good points. So in this moment, I'm agreeing with Belly. Wow, I think that's the first for the series. Jere then tells Belly, okay, we're gonna be totally honest. No more secrets. I hooked up, hint, hint, wink, wink, with Lacey Barone. And when he says this, Belly goes to his face, right across his cheeks. And she's sobbing and crying, because this is also where we learn that her and Jere have not been that intimate with one another. They have not. They have been waiting for a little bit. And so the fact that not only did he get with another girl, he chose to go all the way with another girl, which was really making Belly feel poorly about herself on top of everything else. Another side note from me, the commentator. I'm really curious if they're going to add this plotline into the TV show, because in the TV show, not the book, in the TV show for season 2, her and Conrad hook up, go all the way, are very intimate with one another. And so if we are in the college years in season 3, she's with Jere, and her and Jere haven't hooked up or been intimate with one another, I feel like that'll be very dicey and messy. So I'm intrigued to see whether they're going to keep that as a storyline or not. Something to think about. But anyway, back to the story. Jere is still actively apologizing, saying, I'm so sorry, I love you. You know I've only ever been in love with you. And Belly finally goes, no. You just lost us. We are never going to be the same again. So Belly leaves the party alone, goes to her dorm. She's in bed, sobbing her eyes out. She doesn't answer Jere's call, but she does listen to one of his voicemails where Jere is just repeating, I'm sorry. I love you. I have always loved you, and I always will. And as I said, Belly is sobbing and she cries the night away. Let's go back in time a little bit to see why this break even took place. Shall we? We shall. Jeremiah and Belly, they took this break in April. Little context / timeline. The party where Belly found out that Jere and Lacey Barone hooked up was the end of school party. So depending on what state they go to school, it was either in May or early June. So it's kind of a fresh hookup if you think about it that way. Anywho, they broke up in April. Belly's friend was having a party and she was trying really hard to get Jere to go with her. And Jere's like, I have an intramural game. I really need to be there instead. You go have fun without me. And Belly's just thinking to herself, you know how hard it is for me to make friends apart from you. You know that I'm not like you. I'm not the golden retriever that makes friends with every single person I find. It takes me a little bit. And you not going to something that you know is very important to me is hurting my feelings. Now, does she voice these concerns to him? No, this is literally all in her head. Miscommunication, folks. That is a running theme throughout this whole book series. A delight. This fight that happened that led up to them taking their break was kind of a culmination of everything Jere was doing. It wasn't a, he didn't go to the party with me, I'm so upset, yada, yada, yada. It was a, this party was the last straw kind of thing for me. It was the fact that whenever Belly would come over to him so that they could have takeout together, He knew that she really didn't like Indian food and he would get it anyway because of his allergies. It was a, hey, you and I were supposed to be going to Cousin's Beach together to see all of our family members and you last minute chose to go to Cabo instead? What happened to all of our plans? Culmination of a fight. It was all these little things that just kind of overflowed and had to be released one way or another. Speaking of the impromptu Cabo trip, he just tells her everything we were planning to do over spring break we can do over the summer. If you're so worried, just come with us. And Belly is just thinking to herself, if you're so worried. If you're so worried, not you shouldn't be worried. Oh no, don't worry, it's fine. If you are so worried is just what she was very, very fixated on in that moment. Jere also picks right now as the perfect time to tell Belly, hey, the sorority is coming to Cabo as well. So it's not just my frat, like some of the Zeta girls are also coming along. Great, wonderful, we absolutely love that. Do you know what sorority Lacey Barone is a part of? Zeta, which is a sorority going with his frat bros. Coinky dink. Belly responds with, you know what, that sounds like so much fun, go have a blast with the Zetas. He does, obviously. Jere decides to say, I've never given you any reason to doubt me. Don't try and guilt trip me into making me go home when I would rather go to Cabo. Belly then tells him, your frat is dumb and you are just being selfish. Oh, so I'm dumb because I'm not a pre-med? Let's backtrack a little bit because who on earth is a pre-med student right now? I'm trying to rack my brain. Who is a pre-med student that he would be comparing himself to? Oh, Conrad, his brother. Oh, you know Conrad, right? Her ex-boyfriend Conrad, the boy she's been in love with her whole life? Crazy. And the way that Belly chooses to respond to Jeremiah is, do not put your inferiority complex on me. Jaw on the ground, because this is something that she's always thought. She has always believed that he has felt so inferior to Conrad, but she's never voiced these opinions. She voiced them. She just did. Here's a little like side by side because Conrad is a great student. Conrad is pre-med. Conrad is at Stanford because he transferred from Brown after the whole motel incident, if you will. And Jeremiah just told everyone that he was majoring in beerology. And these are the comparisons that I personally am not making. These are the comparisons that Belly made in her head. This is literally what she said. Jere, who kind of just feels like he's been punched in the gut after being told he has an inferiority complex, says, then why are you even with me? And before Belly even has a second to think on how she wants to reply, he goes, you know what? No, let's end it. We're done. We're calling it. They cried the whole way home. She spent her whole spring break in her room, eating cereal, not talking to anyone. Steven, her brother, comes into her room and is like, it's going to be okay. You and I both know that you and Jere are going to be back together before the end of this week. Which, he was right. They were back together before the end of the week. But while Belly was having a really hard time in her room, crying her eyes out during her spring break, Jere indeed went to Cabo. Jere indeed hung out with the Zetas. And Jere indeed had some fun with Lacey Barone. Very two different spring breaks. But to play devil's advocate, because that is my role in this whole scenario, they were on a break, they were broken up. He just kept it all a secret and didn't feel the need to share that with her, which is where it gets dicey. In my personal opinion, the secret is where it's very, very dicey. Also, while he was in Cabo, he bought Belly a puka shell necklace, and Belly's just thinking to herself, oh my gosh, he thought about me the whole time during spring break, just like how I did. He was so sad and miserable, just like me. And now Belly's just staring at that puka shell piece of jewelry, thinking to herself, he bought this because he felt guilty for what he did. The next morning, Belly's face is very, very puffy, but obviously so. She's been crying her eyes out all night. She goes to tell Taylor and Annika every single thing that happened, and Annika is telling her, like, the fact that you're so upset isn't because of everything that happened. The fact that you're so upset is because he kept this a secret from you. Making this a secret was giving it so much power. Belly is silent as soon as Annika says this because she's thinking to herself, oh my gosh, I also have been keeping a secret and giving a secret so much power away from Jeremiah because of something that happened last December. Crazy, crazy. A little tiny memory of her and Conrad that she's been holding near and dear in so close that she never told Jere about. So let's look at what that memory is. Let's go back in time to that December. And again, for timeline's sake, because we're going to add this in, it is now the end of school. In April is when Jeremiah and Lacey hooked up. We're going to go back now to December, which is only a few months before that, to this memory right here. It is during Christmas break. Belly is home. Belly has put on a little weight from college, as most people do, because you're stressed, you're away from home for the first time. There's a lot of culminating factors. Like, this is a very, very normal thing. And also, people's bodies fluctuate. That is what happens. But Steven is picking on her for it. He is picking on her for it and making her feel very, very bad. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. I'm over this. I'm leaving for the night. And she decides to take Steven's car. She's thinking to herself, you are so rude to me. I'm taking your car to drive me where I want to go. And she decides to go to Cousin's Beach. She pulls up at Cousin's Beach house. She takes the little spare key from under the mat, lets herself in. She goes to bed. And then she hears someone rattling the door later in the middle of the night, like rattling the door saying, Steven, Steven, let me in. Steven, I see your car. I know you're here. And all of a sudden, Belly goes, oh my God, that's Conrad. Conrad's here right now. When Belly lets Conrad in, Conrad is very surprised that it's Belly and not Steven, because it was Steven's car outside, and also that's his ex-girlfriend. That they have a lot of messy history together. But he tells her that Jere and his dad are still in New York. His flight got in early, and so he really just wanted to come to Cousins for a little bit. He also starts a fire for the two of them because it's very chilly on this December night. And Belly notes that it all felt so familiar for the two of them, like none of that messy history ever happened. And they're also standing really, really close to one another, and she immediately can tell that he's feeling the same way because he clears his throat and goes, I'm gonna go to bed, and just goes to his room upstairs. The next morning, she convinced herself that Conrad had already left because that's what Conrad does best in her mind. He gets uncomfortable and he leaves the scenario. And so she's sprinting downstairs to see where he went, but she actually trips over her pants. And so she does almost a cartoon moment where she's hurt herself so badly she can't get up. And then Conrad comes around the corner being like, are you okay? Because he did not leave. And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Please just leave me here. I will get up when I'm ready to get up. And he's like, no, we're going to bring you over to the couch. And so he literally scoops her up. And Belly, being a little insecure because of how her brother treated her, is saying to herself, no, don't pick me up. I will get there myself. No big deal. I put on a little weight. Like, it's okay. He responds with, you look the same to me, Belly. You're still same old Belly. I might not be Jere, but I can easily bring you over to a couch. And he goes, he checks on her. He makes sure that she's okay. And she's thinking to herself, I still love you. Please refer back to the timeline that she is currently in a relationship with Jere. And at this point in time, they have probably been together for over a year of their lives. They have been together for quite a bit of time. And she's thinking, I still love you, Conrad. Commentator point of view right here. Devil's advocate. Yes, he did hook up with another girl while he was on spring break in Cabo while they were on a break. Yes, he did keep that a secret. She's keeping a secret that while they were together, she had a moment with his brother where she's thinking to herself, I still love you. It's seeming a little emotionally cheating, a little not being able to move forward. Mess. It's giving mess. They're both messy. Jeremiah and Belly, both messy. I've said what I've said. In this moment, while she's thinking, I still love you, she's also thinking, a part of me will always be in love with Conrad, a small part, just like the little girl who always loved musicals. I'll always be in love with Conrad, but Jere will have the rest of me. He will have every other part of my heart except for that little sliver that belongs to his brother. Belly spends the rest of the day on the couch recovering. She's watching an old movie. Belly is on the couch all day. She's watching an old movie. She's watching Casablanca when Conrad comes back into the room. He admits that he's also seen this movie because he's like, do you remember who my mom was? My mom loved old movies. That's why you also love them, silly. Towards the very, very end of this movie, like the credits are about to roll and Belly is crying and she looks at Conrad and she goes, this part always makes my heart hurt. Like it always makes me want to cry. Conrad asks her why it has a happy ending. She was better with this guy that she ended up with. And Belly says, you're not paying enough attention then because she was meant for this other guy. Keep all this in mind because Conrad believes that the woman in Casablanca ended up with the guy that was better for her. Whereas Belly believes that the woman should have ended up with the guy she was meant to be with. Is anything clicking into place for you? Because if you look at the two brothers, there seems to be one that is better for her, or that maybe some would think are better for her, and then there's a brother that is meant for her. The next morning, Conrad vanished like a ghost. No goodbye, no trace of him, gone. She called Jere on her way home, but she didn't tell Jere where she was. She didn't tell Jere who she was with, what she was doing. She avoided bringing any of that up. And she didn't know why she lied, but she knew that she didn't want him to know. Belly decided that Conrad was right about Casablanca, and she was just looking at it the wrong way. The woman in Casablanca ended up with the guy that was right for her. The other guy, the one whom some may say she was meant to be with, was just a piece of her past, and there was a lot of history connected with that. It's a piece that she would always love, maybe always have a piece of her heart. But that was just history. Interesting. Does that sound like symbolism to y'all? Because it sounds like it to me. It does. Present day, Belly has turned her phone back on. She's been getting a bajillion messages from Jeremiah. I'm talking texts, voicemails, emails, the whole 9 yards. Other than carrier pigeon, he's been trying to reach out to her. And she just texted him saying, I need space. And he's actually respecting that because after that moment, he is not sending her anything else. And that's what's irritating her. The fact that he's listening to her when she says that she needs space and he didn't send another message, she's irritated. Because she's like, well, why didn't he send me another message? I don't know. I don't know. Taylor, who is actually a really good friend in this book, like, college was good for Taylor. She's done a whole 180. She comes over, she talks to Belly, and she's like, what do you want to do? I will support you. What do you want to do? Belly's like, I don't know. What do you think I should do? And Taylor goes, under any other circumstances, I would say dump him, leave him in the dust, be gone. But this is Jere. This is Jere. And the day after Belly and Taylor had this talk, Belly caves. She calls Jere. Jeremiah comes a running. He drops whatever the heck he was doing that day and he is sprinting towards Belly. He shows up at her dorm. She asks him, how can I know that you will never do this to me again? How am I supposed to trust you? And he decides the best answer to this question is for him to get down on one knee and ask her to marry him. And it's not like a, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you decided to take me back. We'll get a ring later, like marry me ordeal. No. He pulled out a velvet box from his pocket with a ring inside. Like he had a ring. And again, like their relationship is a little rocky, but he still asks. He is on one knee asking. Jere's telling her, marry me. We'll get an apartment together. I will learn how to cook. I will learn how to cook something other than cereal. Yes, he says cereal, by the way. I will clean. I will take care of you. Anything, just marry me. Belly says, you're just trying to erase what you did by marrying me. Jeremiah responds with, no, that's not it one bit. What happened made me realize how much I love you and I can't lose you and I don't want to live my life without you, so marry me. A little bit of a pause. So Jeremiah goes on saying, you're the only girl for me. I love you. will you marry me, Isabel Conklin? And she says yes. She says yes. Cue the wedding bells. Later that night, their engagement night. They're in bed, it's time to go to sleep. Belly closes her eyes, she starts to dream. And what does she dream of on the night of her engagement? Conrad. She dreams of Conrad, her now fiance's brother, on the night she got engaged. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. Let's break down this dream. Let's break it down for y'all. They're outside. Belly is her current age, but Dream Conrad is probably around like 10, maybe 12 years old, in that little range. And they're lost in the woods, unaware of how to get back. And she is crying, sobbing, and she wakes up crying while Jere is fast asleep in the bed next to her at 4:57 in the morning. She's literally sleeping next to this man, having dreams about his brother while she's engaged to him. And it's just so messy. It's so messy. Oh, and eventually she falls back asleep. She does. And when she wakes up in the morning, she is trying with all of her power to piece this dream back together because she doesn't want to lose it. Belly wanted to tell everyone face to face. She didn't want it to just be a little announcement. She didn't want anyone in her family to feel bombarded. Like, she wanted to tell everyone face to face, hey, Jeremiah and I are getting married. This is actually perfect timing because in 1 week, her family and Jeremiah's family will all be together again in Cousins Beach because there is a little foundation service for Susanna, Jeremiah's mom. Susanna used to always go to the women's shelter, donate to the women's shelter, anything that she used where she needed a big charity, she would always have it be the women's shelter in Cousins Beach. And so they're having a little bit of like this little ceremony and celebration over Susanna's life. And they're all showing up to support that. Please, please, please just note that it's all of Belly's family and Jere's family. So there is a really big chance that Conrad will be there. Now, Conrad really does not show up or come home a lot of the time anymore, so there is the tiny little chance he might not fly home for this, and so she might not even have to tell him. But she also might have to tell him, you know? Belly has not seen Conrad since last Christmas, when they were alone together in Cousins. Conrad actually didn't even come home for Laurel's birthday, which made Laurel so sad because her and Conrad have always been the closest. Conrad actually made sure that Laurel had flowers sent to her from him so that she knew that he was still thinking about her and he didn't forget about her because, again, they are one and the same. They actually talk on the phone to one another quite often. Belly did decide that she is going to tell Taylor and Annika before she tells her family because both Taylor and Annika are currently with her. So she's like, you know what, we're going to tell Taylor first and then we'll brace up and prepare to tell Annika. When she tells Taylor, Taylor screams and goes, oh my gosh, show me the ring, let me see it, let me see it, let me see it. And Belly's like, and Taylor looks at it and Belly can tell that Taylor thinks it's a little small. But Belly doesn't mind one bit because she's engaged. Taylor is looking at the ring, she pauses and she goes, but he cheated on you, Belly. The timing is a little suspect, don't you think? Belly argues saying, no, it's not. This is Jere we're talking about. He is the love of my life. Why can't you just get married after college? Why do you have to get married right now while you're in college? Because there's no point in waiting if we're gonna get married anyway. Then says, oh, no, no, no. Laurel is about to go full Terminator on that boy. It is going to be so messy. It's gonna be a massacre. And Belly simply says, no, it's not. Laurel loves Jere, and Laurel and Susanna used to always talk about me marrying one of her sons. So this would make Susanna so happy. Little commentator note right here, right now. Please recall that Susanna indeed always wanted Belly to marry one of her sons, but it wasn't Jeremiah that she was always pushing towards Belly. It was always Conrad. She was always trying to make her and Conrad involved in some way. It was her making Conrad take her to this place, whether it was her treating Belly's prom night like her wedding night to Conrad, anything like that, it was always Conrad and Belly in Susanna's mind. Just my thoughts. Belly also tells Taylor, we're getting married in August. Timeline. It is the end of school. Belly is about to move out of her dorm to go back home for the summer. And so depending on when her college ends, it could very well be end of May, beginning of June, which would mean she's getting married in about 2 months. And also, another thing for the timeline right here, right now. Belly, her birthday is in August, if y'all recall from the previous books. And so she will not be turning 19 until August. And so she is currently 18 years old. Yes, very, very quick timeline. Taylor is saying, we're all thinking, that is so fast. How are you going to get what you've always dreamed of? You've always wanted 5 bridesmaids. You've always wanted a 4-layered wedding cake. You've always wanted a really creepy ice sculpture of a human heart with y'all's initials in it. How are we going to get this done by August? And Belly says, no. Like, that was what I wanted when I was 10 years old. This is just going to be really small and intimate. Nothing extravagant like that. And Taylor is looking at her like, because you've always talked about your wedding looking like this. We've always talked about your wedding being a specific thing. And the fact that you always wanted to dance to this one song called Stay. Please make a mental note of this song called Stay. It is not the one by Rihanna. If I find a link to the song, I will put it in the bio. But I've never heard of it before, but it is called Stay. Oh, and before I forget, Belly also has made Taylor her maid of honor / wedding planner, because they really need to get the ball rolling on this thing, because August is going to come up quick. Annika was next, and Belly was really dreading this because she didn't want Annika to think any less of her. And also, Annika is who Belly was going to live with this upcoming fall. Everything was also already set in stone. Like, one of them was bringing a couch, one was bringing a fridge, someone was bringing a TV. Like, everything was set in motion, and she was about to tell this girl, like, hey, I'm actually getting married, moving into an apartment. We're not living together. Annika actually handles it a whole lot better than Belly thought. Annika's like, I'm not mad. I can figure that out. That's not a big deal one bit. I'm just really surprised over the whole situation. Belly agrees, saying, me too. And Annika just kind of nods her head. She doesn't say anything. And then to fill the silence, because Belly's feeling a little uncomfortable, Belly goes, do you think I'm making a mistake? Annika replies with, does it even matter what I think? It's not my place to judge you one bit. Annika also goes on saying, you care too much about what others think of you. Later, when Belly was walking back to her dorm, she thinks to herself, college life as she knows it is about to change completely. Belly's dad has arrived at the college to help move Belly out for the summer. Her dad, and Jere have decided to go to lunch, and her dad's like, don't worry about anything, get whatever you want on the menu, but Belly's like, I know you don't have that much money, so I'm gonna get one of the cheaper things on the menu. And then she looks over at Jere, who orders the most expensive thing on the menu, and she's thinking to herself, he didn't even look at the price or think twice about it. He just ordered what he wanted and didn't think about anything. And so when the check came around, her dad literally was like, which again, Jere never noticed. And he laid down his credit card, but you could tell that like he was not anticipating it to be that price. And Belly just keeps taking note of, I'm about to marry a man who's never had to struggle for money one bit, and we're not going to have anything. And he's never had to have these struggles. Also decide to not tell her dad that they're currently engaged, because Belly does not want her mom to hear it from anyone else except her. And Belly's also really sad over the fact that she always envisioned whoever she was going to marry go ask her dad for his blessing. And Jared didn't do that. And so that was also something that made her really sad while she was thinking about the fact that she's now engaged, because that was something she always wanted. The night before going to Cousins Beach, Belly's on the phone with Jere. They're talking about all the things with the wedding, and Jere is like, I want a chocolate cake with a raspberry filling. And Belly's like, well, I've always really wanted carrot cake. And Jere's like, bleh. Belly just responds with, oh, what if we compromise? Like, we could do 1 layer chocolate, 1 layer carrot, chocolate carrot. And Jere's saying, that's nasty, but sure, if they can do that, whatever makes you happy. Belly responds with, great, now we just have to figure out how to pay for all of it, and I'm going to pick up as many shifts as I possibly can. He pauses and he says, I don't actually want you working there anymore. What? Why? Because you're working too hard. I don't want you to work too hard. You're working all summer at your internship. Yeah, but it's really a joke. My dad set it up for me, and I still have all the money my mom left me, and she wouldn't want you to work this hard either. She would want to contribute. It would make her so happy. Belly is letting this conversation go because she doesn't want to continue it any further. And eventually she gets around to the topic of Conrad, very subtly, I might add, and she goes, "What's the deal with Conrad? Is he coming?" Jere, kind of snippy, goes, "Who knows what Conrad's deal is? Don't forget to bring your ring, by the way." Obviously, Belly tells him that she won't, and she goes to bed stressing. Stressing so much that she's struggling to sleep because she is afraid. Afraid of what, you might ask? Afraid of Conrad coming. And also afraid of Conrad not coming. This is yet another night in our story where we're like maybe 10 chapters in and that she's thinking about Conrad. We are now at the event. We are at Cousins Beach. They are all outside. So Laurel, Belly, Steven, they are all outside there waiting. Laurel's thinking to herself, where's Conrad? Conrad should be here by now. Where on earth is he? Belly's just thinking to herself, like, this is what Conrad does. Whatever. Laurel tells Belly, we need to go inside. We have to go talk to a few people, but will you just stay out here a little longer and wait for him just in case he shows up? Belly obviously agrees. She sits on the curb and she's just waiting, but she knows he's not coming. After 10 minutes of waiting, she stands up and she walks back inside. This is the moment we have all been waiting for, ladies and gents, since book 1, because we are having a POV change. And whose POV are we about to be in? Conrad Fisher. So let's see what he's thinking. Conrad saw her before she saw him. He saw her sitting on the ground. He noticed that she looked a little different. Her hair was pinned back in a way that he'd never seen before. She was wearing heels. She was wearing this purple dress, but then he got glimpses of her like fixing her hair a little bit because it kept trying to fall out. He saw glimpses of her like fiddling with her dress because she looked a little comfy, and he just kept thinking, no, like, that's the same old Belly. Conrad walks in just as Jere is starting his speech. Now, as I said, this is an event for Susanna, thus why Jere is making a speech. He watches Jere finish his speech, watches him go over to Belly and grab her hand, and in that very moment, Conrad felt all of his muscles in his stomach just clench. He knew right then and there that it was a mistake for him to be here. A huge mistake, and he shouldn't have come. Let's go back to Belly's point of view. She finally sees him, and Conrad raises his hand and waves to her, and Belly just raises her hand. She cannot find the power to wave back, so her hand's just like that. When they all make their way over to Conrad, Conrad is not standoffish. He is not being an angsty boy. He gives her a bear hug where he lifts her off the ground, and everyone is giggling and laughing and smiling except Jeremiah, who is staring daggers into his brother. And Mr. Fisher says the weirdest comment that I have ever read in my life, and I just like think he's, I don't want to say ignorant, oblivious, we'll say oblivious. He goes, Conrad's so happy he has his little sister back. And Conrad is like, oh yeah, hi little sis, like saying it in a very sarcastic tone. And Belly's just thinking to herself, does Mr. Fisher not know that me and Conrad dated? Like, what? What's happening? Jere is very clearly irritated. He has taken out his phone and he's like, I am starving. He's not looking at Belly or anything. And Belly's just thinking to herself, is he mad at me? Did I do something wrong? In the car on the way to the restaurant, Jere and Belly rode together. So it's just the two of them in the car, and Belly hesitates before saying, maybe we shouldn't tell them today. And Jere's like, no, I don't want to wait. I want to tell them right now. I want you to be able to wear your ring loud and proud that we're getting married. And Belly's like, I am loud and proud. Perfect. Then we're going to tell them today, just like we said we were going to. Also, Jere says, don't have your feelings hurt if he says anything. Now, Belly O'Belly was thinking that he meant Mr. Fisher, which she was really confused about. Like, why would Mr. Fisher say anything mean to me? But I, on the other hand, being the reader and the one assuming, because why not make assumptions when you can do commentary? I think that he was talking about Conrad as the only like reasonable character he could be talking about in this moment. Anywho, they arrive at the restaurant. They all sit down there. They're so happy that Conrad is here. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we're all joined together again. This is great. They order so many appetizers, an obscene amount of appetizers for the table. All the appetizers show up and chaos ensues. Chaos ensues, yes. Jere decides to tell the table immediately after his dad finished a toast to Susanna, and Jere says, we have an announcement. I'm just gonna warn you, it's good news. Y'all are gonna be so happy over this. Belly and I are getting married. I have asked Belly to marry me, and she said, yes, we're getting married in August. Let me just tell you, the restaurant goes silent, as if all of the air has been sucked out of the restaurant. No one is saying anything. Laurel's face is like, even is choking on his water, coughing up a storm because he's like, Conrad's face is blank, as if he just got like punched in the gut over here. And Laurel finally composes herself a bit to find the words to say, are you pregnant? I thought we had enough of the little talks about the birds and the bees and contraceptives. I sent you with contraceptives. Are you pregnant? And Belly's like, I'm not pregnant. I'm not. I promise I'm not pregnant. We just want to get married. Mr. Fisher is over here laughing up a storm like, Laurel, calm down, calm down. Obviously, this is just a practical joke. They're pranking us right now. We're being punked. And Jere says, no, we're not joking. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Laurel very sternly says, you two are not getting married. You two are still in school. If you are still having these feelings after graduation, well after graduation, we will discuss it then in a few years. The waiter then comes to the table to get everyone's official orders after all the appetizers have arrived. And again, they're untouched. And Laurel goes, no, we're just gonna take the check. We're leaving. They're all walking out of the restaurant. Belly's behind Laurel, but in front of everyone else. And she hears Steven lean over to Conrad and goes, did you know? And she hears Conrad go, no. Conrad speeds up a bit, goes to give Laurel a hug, doesn't say goodbye to anyone else, gets in his car, and he's out of here. He's gone. See you later. At the car, Belly goes, can I have my keys? I need to go bring some stuff to Jere's car because we're hanging out right now. And Laurel's like, no, you're not. Get in the car. You are not hanging out with him. Get in the car. And Belly looks at Steven for assistance, and Steven's like, get in the car. You're making it worse. Just get in the car. While they are in the car, which Steven is driving currently because Laurel is not in the right mind to be driving. She's very angry right now. Steven is just there holding the wheel like this. Laurel whips around from the passenger seat and goes, you're returning that ring right now. Belly says, I'm not returning it, no. And the next entire week, Laurel and Belly do not speak one word to one another. After a late shift at the restaurant that Belly is indeed still working at, she comes home and she hears Laurel sobbing in her bedroom, and Belly goes to reach the doorknob. She holds on to it, and then she hesitates and decides, you know what, no, I'm not backing down, I'm not giving in. And she goes back to her own room, and she also sobs herself to sleep that night. But when Belly wakes up, her dad is now home too. So it's her dad and Laurel, and they're like, we need to talk, let's have a discussion. Her dad says, your mom and I have discussed this, and if you want to live with Jeremiah that badly, get an apartment with him in the fall. We will try and help you pay for it. You might have to take an extra job, but you can live with him if you want. And Belly's like, I'm not getting married because I want to live with him. I'm getting married because I want to marry him. Laurel butts in and goes, who paid for the ring, Belly? Jere doesn't have a job. Belly then says, he used his credit card. Oh, the credit card that Mr. Fisher paid for? Interesting, interesting, interesting. If a boy cannot afford to buy a wedding ring, he has no point in getting one and proposing to somebody. Honestly, real talk. Laurel really is not letting Belly get a word in. Laurel is like, it might not seem like it, but when your dad and I got married, we were very much in love. We didn't go into this marriage thinking that we would get divorced. But we did, because love is not enough sometimes. There's a whole other bout of factors that go into this, like stability. Belly goes, so you regret it? What? You regret getting married to dad, so you regret me and Steven? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. Belly then goes, Jere and I aren't you and Dad. We have known each other our whole lives. We have history and we love each other. Laurel then shakes her head, looks at Belly and says, I don't support this. I don't support this in any way, shape, or form. If you go through with this wedding, do not expect me to be there. Do not expect me to help with the wedding planning. I want no part in this. Belly is now sobbing because her own mom is saying that she's refusing to go to the wedding now. Belly finally calms down a bit to say, I am marrying Jere no matter what you say. And if you can't be happy for me, your only daughter, then I think it's best if you don't come to the wedding. End of conversation. Ooh. The next day, Stephen comes into the room while Belly is folding up her laundry. Her and Laurel have not talked since that fight. And Stephen goes, so you're really going through with this thing, huh? Belly goes, of course I am going through with this thing. I'm getting married. Stephen goes, you realize that this is insane, right? Like there's no point in y'all getting married. Y'all are very, very young. Just live together. They gave you the option of living together in the fall. Just do that instead. Belly changes the subject a little bit by saying, Jere actually wants you and Conrad to be his best men. This makes Stephen smile, and then he takes his smile back and goes, I don't think Mom is gonna let me in the wedding. And Belly goes, you are 21 years old. You can do whatever you want. Stephen goes, I don't think this is your smartest move, Belly. And then he pauses and goes, oh, Mom is going to be so mad at me. I was supposed to talk you out of getting married, not getting roped into the wedding party. But I guess Con and I better start planning the bachelor party. And Belly doesn't miss a beat by saying Jere doesn't want to have a bachelor party. He's not having that. Stephen grins says, that's a man's thing. You don't have to worry about that. And he closes the door. So Stephen is now a little bit on board. Or at least out of every single person in both of their families, he's the most on board. Laurel has still not changed her mind. Belly is about to head to the mall to go find a wedding dress, hopefully, because she only has 2 months until the wedding. And she goes to tell Laurel this, and Laurel's like, good luck. Like, she wants no part in this whatsoever. Belly and Taylor are at the mall. There are actually a lot of girls in the store currently because for some reason, the prom is happening after graduation instead of before graduation. So a lot of people are prom dress shopping at the moment, and one of the girls goes up to Belly and they're like, oh my goodness, you look so good. What prom are you attending? And Belly goes, oh, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm actually getting married. The girl is flabbergasted and is like, you're getting married? How old are you? Belly lies and says, I'm 19. Which we know isn't true because Belly's birthday is in August. And so in August, she will be 19. But no. She is currently 18 years old. Earl is very much judging Belly right now, and Taylor can sense this. And so Taylor, being a really good friend to get this girl away from Belly, is like, doesn't she look so good for being 3 months pregnant? And then the girl leaves them alone and they continue on with what they're doing. I think they hit up 5 stores, give or take. And the last store, the very, very last dress is the one. It's very, very cutesy. It's very, very demure, if you will. Very regal is the word I was actually looking for. And they're doing a little bit of a beach wedding, so it fits that vibe as well. And she's very, very excited over it. And she immediately calls Jere. She's like, I found my dress. Woo! I'm so excited. Let's go get married. And Jere's like, that's amazing. Did your mom go with you? I knew she would finally come around. And Belly's like, no, she doesn't want anything to do with this wedding. She didn't go with me to find my dress. No. They say goodnight. And then the next day, someone's knocking on their door. And do y'all have any guesses who it is? I'll give you a little time. Okay, you have your guesses. It is Jeremiah, and he is holding a bouquet of lilies. And Belly is like, oh my gosh, thank you for visiting me. And she reaches for the lilies. He's like, these are not for you. Where's your mom? I'm going to talk to your mom real quick. He hugs her, and then he's like, Belly, come here, group hug before we all talk. And they're all in a group hug. And then they go into the living room and they need to discuss things because Laurel looks at him and she's like, good, I actually need to talk to the two of you together. This is perfect. Let's talk. Laurel says, I want to be honest with both of you. I don't support what you're doing. Jere replies with, I want to be with Belly for a lifetime and I can easily commit to her for a lifetime. Laurel shakes her head and she goes, that right there is how I know you are not ready for marriage. She goes on saying, this is not a whim decision, and if Beck, his mother, were here, she would agree with me. Jere very shyly says, I think my mom would be happy for us. And Laurel, Belly will finish college on time. Please just give us your blessing, please. Laurel very solemnly says, not like this. I'm sorry. Belly then questions, does this mean you're really not coming to the wedding? No, I cannot support this. And then Belly says, well, I cannot live here then. And that is when she decides that she is going to be staying at Cousins Beach until the wedding in August. As they are on their drive to Cousins Beach, Jere says, I actually really need to tell you something, Belly. To which Belly's like, what? What's happening now? Conrad didn't go back to California. He's actually been staying at Cousins Beach for a little bit. So you are probably going to be staying with him. Yay! Belly goes, oh, do you think he's going to mind that I'm staying there too? Jere replies with, no, I don't think he's going to mind. I just wish I would be there too. When they make it to Cousins Beach, Conrad is like, why are you people here? To which Jeremiah is like, we're just here to plan the wedding. They do not tell him about any of the Laurel stuff whatsoever. Jere's kind of keeping that on the inside, and Belly does not want to talk about it one bit. And Conrad's like, okay, cool, whatever. He does ask about Laurel, but no one responds, and so you can tell Conrad knows what's happening, especially since he is so close with Laurel, but he also knows it's not his business anymore. And so he goes upstairs for the night. Let's go to Conrad's point of view. Conrad asks Jere to go surfing with him, and the reason Conrad does this is because he wants to get to the bottom of this whole wedding mess. They talk about Laurel, they talk about their dad, they talk about how everyone is against this thing. To which Conrad says, if everyone is so against it, maybe you shouldn't do it. You don't even have a job, Jere. Jere is practically spitting at him, saying, this is none of your business. Stay out of it. This is between Belly and me. And then he's paddling away on his surfboard. Conrad thinks to himself how much he wants to kick Jere in his behind because Jere is being so smug, saying, this is between me and Belly. And also, Conrad thinks, and I quote, direct quote, so I'm gonna look at my notes for this, he was marrying my girl and I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to watch it happen because it's my brother and I promised. And if you're asking yourself, oh my goodness, who did he promise? He promised Susanna when Susanna was on her deathbed that he would take care of Jere. And so now we're here. Everyone's so happy. So happy. Back to Belly's POV, she wakes up, Jere and Conrad are still out surfing. She tries to get a little bit of a jump on wedding planning. They have a budget of $1,000, which in the grand scheme of a wedding really is not a lot. It's not a lot whatsoever, and she quickly learns this. Jere does come back from surfing. They spend a little bit of time alone together, and then he has to leave, and he tells her that he will see her in 5 days. And you can just tell by the look on his face that Jere does not want to leave her and Conrad alone. But he's gotta go be an intern. First week in Cousins, Belly is trying so hard to stay away from Conrad. She's on the back porch eating a Pop-Tart. Conrad comes running up. He just got back from the gym and he asks her, is that what you're eating for breakfast? I laid out some cereal, some fruit. You could have that if you want. And she responds with, well, I didn't want to eat your food without asking you because you bought all that food. And Conrad replies with, well, then why didn't you just ask me? Because he knows she's been avoiding him. But Belly knows he's also been avoiding her, and so she goes, well, I couldn't ask you because I couldn't find you. To which he responds with, fair enough, but anything that I buy is also yours. That is perfectly fine with me. Belly notes that Conrad is actually an amazing roommate. He cleans up after himself, he cooks dinner. As soon as he cooks dinner, all the dishes go into the dishwasher and they are just so clean. He replaces the paper towel rolls. He never leaves the toilet seat up. Basically, he does everything that Jere doesn't. She literally says that. Thank him for everything. She decides to make him some spaghetti because that's the only meal she knows how to make. She makes it, leaves him out a bowl, and he doesn't show up for dinner. He doesn't. He doesn't come home that night. But also, this was a surprise dinner, by the way, so don't think he was flaking. This was a complete surprise. Before she goes to bed, she decides to leave some of the leftovers out on the counter just in case he wants it whenever he gets in. When she wakes up in the morning and goes downstairs, she sees that the spaghetti is gone and that the plate is cleaned up. The next time that Belly and Conrad talk to one another, she is telling him how she needs to go to the post office ASAP because she needs love stamps. And Conrad is like, I don't know what the heck a love stamp is, but I gotta go to the hardware store. It's right by the post office. Come on, I'll drive. Let's go. She's a little hesitant, but she's like, I really do need to go to the post office, so fine. She gets in his car and she goes, wow, when was the last time I was even in your car? This is crazy. Without missing a beat, he says, prom night? Prom night. If y'all remember, that was the end of them, so it's a little bit of a discussion killer right there, right off the bat. Belly can tell that it's really awkward, and Belly is trying to move forward with the conversation, being like, that was forever ago, right? Crazy. And he doesn't say anything, so really the conversation is over and done with. He parks the car, he goes to do his thing, she goes to do her thing, she gets the stamps. And when she's back in the car, she looks at Conrad and she goes, "Do you have a girlfriend?" To which he hesitates, but he says no. But now let's go into his POV to see what that hesitation meant. The hesitation was because of a girl named Agnes. Agnes was in his chemistry class with him. They would study together. Occasionally they would go get like a burger or pancakes after a study session. Sometimes during a study break, they would hook up a bit. But they were nothing more than just that. They were never a couple or anything. One day out of nowhere, Agnes looks at Conrad and goes, "Have you ever been in love?" "Have you?" he tells Agnes. To which Agnes says, "I asked you first." "Fine, yes, I have, once." Agnes then asks him on a scale of 1 to 10, how in love were you? Conrad says 10. "Well, then what was her name?" Agnes asks him. "Isabel." Isabel is her name. Agnes keeps asking him all these questions, to which Conrad's like, "Why are you asking me all this?" But it doesn't faze her one bit. She keeps on going. She goes, "When did you know you were in love?" And Conrad froze for a little bit because he didn't have an answer for her. It wasn't a specific moment. He compares falling in love with Belly to gradually waking up. You are just slowly kind of finding your footing, getting your bearings, and then all of a sudden you're awake. And it was that instant. Agnes then asks him, "Well, are you in love with me?" Crickets, 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 crickets. Agnes butts in before he can speak and says, "I'm gonna take that as a no." Okay. Agnes also says, "I think you're still in love with this other girl. I don't think you ever stopped." Let's go back to the car. Belly tells Conrad, "I don't believe you. I think you do have a girlfriend, because why on earth would you stay away from home for this long unless you were with someone?" In Conrad's head, we learn that he has stayed away from home for 2 years because he had to. Being near her would just make him want what he couldn't have. And it was dangerous. She was the one person that he couldn't trust himself around. And if Belly knew how much he still cared about her, he would not be able to walk away again. And the promises you make to your mother on her deathbed are set in stone. And if there was one thing about Conrad Fisher, it's that he wasn't a liar. Except for the moment in the motel. Also, this is still his thoughts, by the way. These are not mine. This is not commentator thoughts. This is still in his mind. He lied at the motel saying that he never cared about Belly. He never loved her, because he knew that that was the only thing to get her to let go. He had just lost his mother. He was so angry at everyone that he was not able to give her the amount of love that she deserved in that moment. And he knew that Jere could. Okay, we are still in Conrad's point of view, but it is now later in the week. It is now Friday. It's the afternoon. Belly is sitting on the living room floor and she's looking up at him and she goes, "Jere's late. Jere said that he would be here at a specific time. I told him to leave earlier. He's stuck in traffic and I need to go to Michael's to get all this stuff done. I need to go to the craft store. I don't know what I am going to do." Conrad says, "I'll go with you if you need me to." And so they go to the craft store together. At the store, Belly tells Conrad, "We are looking for hurricane vases. That is what we decided on." And Conrad's like, "What the heck does Jere know about hurricane vases? Why did y'all decide on that?" And Belly very shyly goes, "Oh, I didn't mean Jere and I decided. I meant Taylor and I decided. We're really the ones doing the wedding planning." And honestly, guys, he is the most helpful person in this whole situation. I think he is more helpful than Taylor right now. Like, he is truly the wedding planner, which is probably his worst nightmare. Bless him. When they get back to the house, they notice that Jere's car is there. They walk inside and he is on the couch. And he looks at them, he's like, "Where did you guys go?" To which Belly says, "Well, you were late and I really needed to go to Michael's. So we went to Michael's together to get some stuff for the wedding." He says, "Why didn't you wait for me? I told you I would do that with you." He says, "They close at 9 and you were not going to make it in time." A reminder, we are still in Conrad's POV and Conrad notes that Belly is pissed in this moment. Like, he can tell in her tone that she is not a happy camper. Conrad is wanting to leave this very awkward moment, so he's like, "I'm gonna go unload the car." To which Jere's like, "Hold up, Conrad, I'll go with you. Thank you so much for helping her." After they unload everything, Belly tries so hard to convince Conrad to go to dinner with them. It'll be so fun, the three of them, just like how it was when they were growing up. And Conrad's like, "No, no thank you, no, no, no." And then he snips a bit and says, "I'm good." And he literally can tell that that was harsher than he meant it to be. But when she doesn't ask again, he says, "Well, at least it did the trick." Belly's POV, they're at dinner together. It's just Jere and Belly because Obviously, Conrad was a little snippy, so he didn't go with them. And Jere's like, oh my goodness, I am so exhausted right now. Belly's like, well, wake up. We got a lot to do. We need to figure out our color scheme. Are you going to wear a suit? We just need to figure all this out. And he goes, a suit? I'm not going to wear a suit. We're going to be on the beach. You'll be lucky if I even wear shoes. He pauses, and then he goes, I'll wear whatever you and Taylor want. It's y'all's day anyway. Belly doesn't say anything to this, but she's growing more and more irritated. He then asks, can we dance to the song from Pulp Fiction? It's my favorite movie ever. I think it would be so funny, especially if we put it on YouTube. And Belly goes, you want our first dance to be funny? From a movie I don't even like? I always thought that we would dance to the song Stay. And he's like, it's my favorite movie. It would mean the world to me. Like, my frat brothers are gonna be the ones DJing, so it'll just be perfect. And honestly, we can make the wedding Tarantino themed, which is gonna be great because we said that the wedding is gonna be chill, remember? I mean, sure, it's gonna be chill, but people still need to eat. Don't worry, Dad'll end up hiring someone to cover that. No big deal. Belly says, well, I don't want him to. I want us to do this together, and pitching a Tarantino-themed wedding isn't helping anything. I'm serious about our first dance. That's what I want to dance to. Belly then says, it's a dumb idea and it's not happening. Okay, Bridezilla. That's not from me. That's from him. He said Bridezilla. And Belly says, I'm not being a Bridezilla. I don't even want any of this. You do. And he's like, what? What do you mean you don't want any of this? And Belly's heart is beating out of her chest, but instead she just says, the wedding planning. I just don't want to do any of the wedding planning. It's a lot. Belly also adds, we can have that be our first dance song if you want. To which Jere says, see, this is why I'm marrying you. You're just so generous and you get me. Lovely. How sweet. How kind. When they get back from the restaurant, Conrad's car is gone. Conrad's point of view, this is a direct quote. These are his exact thoughts. He thinks to himself, I would rather have someone shoot me in the head with a nail gun repeatedly than watch Belly and Jere cuddle on the couch. Now, I really want that line to be in a TV show because, oh, I love that line. I do. But instead of spending the night at Cousin's Beach because he doesn't want to watch them do PDA everywhere, he drives home. And he actually learns that his dad is there as well. And his dad sits down and he's like, what do you think we should do about this Belly and Jere situation? And Conrad's like, well, you could stop giving him money. And then Conrad takes a second and he goes, but actually that's probably just gonna fuel and motivate them more, and Jere would never forgive you for that. So actually don't do that. And Mr. Fisher says, I don't wanna lose him the way that I lost you. And Conrad is then thinking to himself, like, I used to adore you as a dad. I thought you hung the moon. And all he did was disappoint me. And then he keeps saying to himself, well, I am the one who put him on the pedestal. So he decides to tell his father, you haven't lost me. I'm still here. And then his dad stands up to go to bed. The next morning, Conrad wakes up and he decides to drive back to Cousins. And now we're in Belly's POV. It's Monday afternoon. Her and Conrad are outside. Conrad is grilling. He's making her dinner. And Belly goes, has Jere asked you to be his best man yet? You and Steven are supposed to be his best men. And Conrad's like, no, he hasn't asked me. It can just be Steven. Like, it's best man, not men. Plural, it'll be Steven. To which Belly goes, you're his brother. You need to be in the wedding party. You are his brother. And before Conrad can say anything else, Belly actually gets a phone call, and it's from Mr. Fisher's secretary, who is like, what's your color scheme going to be? What kind of food do you want to serve at this wedding? What is your budget? What are we doing? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's in this moment that she learned that Mr. Fisher might not support the wedding, but he is now going to help, making this lady, the secretary, her new wedding planner. And so he's really covering everything. Belly gets off the phone and she says this to Conrad, and he goes, well, that's good news. And Belly physically felt sick to her stomach, and Conrad could see this and goes, just eat. You'll feel better after you eat. Conrad's point of view, Conrad did not realize how much of a strain Laurel and Belly's relationship was under right now, and he didn't realize it until he was walking past Belly's room one night and he heard her on the phone with Taylor crying over how Laurel was not going to the wedding shower, wasn't going to the wedding. And so the next morning, Conrad decides to wake up, call Laurel, and meet her at a roadside diner. He immediately looks at Laurel and says, you need to go to this wedding. Laurel asks, you think they should get married? Conrad says, I didn't say that, but I think that they love each other and they're going to do it regardless. I think that she needs her mom right now. Isabella's doing fine without me. Conrad replies with, she's not fine. She's barely eating. I heard her yesterday crying on the phone that you're not going to the wedding shower. She's having a wedding shower? Is Taylor's mom planning it? It's gonna be horrendous. And then she takes a breath and she goes, Jere is not taking this seriously enough. Conrad shakes his head and he goes, well, that's Jere. He doesn't take a lot of things seriously, but he's serious about Belly. And Laurel, if you don't go, you're gonna regret it. Laurel then looks at him, stares him down and goes, what is your interest in all of this? Because remember, Laurel and Conrad are close as can be. Conrad shrugs saying, I just want her to be happy. Just her and Jere. That's all, right? Laurel questions and Conrad doesn't reply. He just stares at her. Later at Cousin's house, we're back in Belly's POV. Conrad comes home and Belly's like, where have you been all day? To which Conrad says, I've just been running errands. Which means, ladies and gents, that Conrad has not told, nor is he going to tell Belly that he spoke to Laurel about the wedding shower. Belly doesn't think anything about this and she goes, well, do you want to go keep me company at the florist today? Conrad says, Jere's coming, can't you just do it with him? And Belly goes, well, he's actually not able to make it today. And are you okay? Did something happen? Conrad does not want to get into this discussion because he does not want to let her know that he went to Laurel. She's like, you know what, that's fine, I'll drive, let's go. They end up deciding on peonies, emphasis on they decide on peonies. Peonies? Peonies? My mom says peonies. Is it peonies or peonies? Let me know. Anywho, they decide on that and the florist looks at him and he goes, you and your groomsmen gonna wear boutonnieres? And Conrad's face becomes a tomato. It becomes a tomato. And Belly goes, oh, he's not the groom. He's just the brother of the groom. And the florist looks very uncomfortable as well. On the way back home, they pass a fruit stand and Belly looks at it, but she doesn't say anything, but Conrad notices that she was looking at it. And so he does a Yui, turns the car around, they go to the fruit stand, she picks up a peach, she puts the little dollar in a container for it, and she takes a big old bite and she's like, oh my goodness, this is the best peach I've ever tasted. And it is making me never want to have another one again because it'll never live up to this moment. And Conrad's like, okay, here, let's put this to the test. He puts another dollar in the jar, she takes her peach and she's like, this one's pretty good too. Are you sure you don't want to bite? Conrad says, I'm allergic. No, you're not. I've seen you eat peach pie before. And he's just staring at her like, I'm allergic. To which she just thinks that he's lying. As she's eating this peach, she has juice all over her face. And so he takes the bottom of his t-shirt, gets really close to Belly, and he wipes her face off with the bottom of his t-shirt. And Belly is just thinking to herself, this might be the most intimate thing that has ever happened to me before. And she can tell that he feels it too, because when it's done, he's like, oh, let's head on back. Let's just go on back. And this is an amazing moment in my opinion. And if this is not in the show, I'm gonna throw hands because the tension was there. The tension, the chemistry, it was there. This is another moment that she does not tell Jere about. The next day, her and Jeremiah are going apartment shopping, and the apartment that Jeremiah absolutely loves smells disgusting, is not very well kept, and Jere looks at her and goes, no, this is perfect, it's right by campus, it'll be as if we're still living on campus, and there's a huge front yard, think of all the parties we can throw. And Belly's like, if I wanted to live in a frat house, I would just move into the frat house with you. We're not doing that. I want to live in this one instead. And he, after a bit of arguing and intense tension, says, okay, fine, we'll go back to the first one. They go back to the first apartment and the lady is like, okay, this is perfect. First and last month's rent. Beautiful, beautiful. Let me just run your credit score. Let me just do a little credit check. And Jere goes, if you have some unpaid credit card bills, does that affect your credit score? And Belly looks at him going, what are you talking about? Your dad pays your credit card. Oh, I actually opened up my own credit card as well freshman year to buy some other things. And Belly's like, are you absolutely kidding me right now? Like, what was the reason? Why? And Belly doesn't have any credit whatsoever. And so they get denied this apartment. And even though the lady didn't specify if it was due to her lack of credit, his bad credit, she still kind of blames him because she was unaware of that and they're about to be married. Like, these are certain things they probably should have talked about. Time for a bridal shower. When Belly was about to leave Cousins, Conrad actually says, you look really nice today. And this was a comment that Belly was overthinking her entire drive home. It was all she could think about. She makes it to Taylor's mom's house. She's making small talk with everyone, and then she looks over at the couch and she sees a woman wearing a blue pantsuit, and she immediately notices that it's her mom! Her mom actually showed up! And Belly is ecstatic. She has a smile on her face. She's basically in tears during this little moment, and it's just really sweet. It's really, really sweet. And Belly asks Taylor, like, how did you get her here? What did you do? And Taylor's like, I have no clue. We tried, and she kept saying no, but this is amazing. Belly thanks Laurel for coming, and Laurel just says, you're my girl. And that night, Belly didn't go back to Cousins. She went back to her house, and she had an amazing night with her mom and Steven. Oh, it's beautiful. Conrad's point of view, that night when Belly was staying at home, he decided to go visit the owner of the seafood restaurant that he used to buzz tables for when he was growing up. That guy's name is Ernie, by the way. Talking about how Jeremiah is getting married, Ernie looks at Conrad and he goes, you gonna cry like a punk, or you gonna do something about it? Because you still love her. She's the one. She's the one for you, right? Conrad goes, do you really believe that? That there's a one for a person? The one, if you will? I do. Ernie says. A little time has passed. Ernie brings up someone working at the restaurant. He goes, family's family. And then Conrad says, really? Because 2 commercial breaks ago, you told me I was going to be a punk if I didn't go break up my brother's wedding. Ernie shrugs his shoulders and goes, if a girl is the one, all bets are off, family or no family. And when Conrad went home that night, he instantly felt lighter. Snaps to Ernie. It is now a few days before the wedding. It's time for the bachelorette party. Belly is cleaning the house because everyone's about to be coming in. Conrad is coming back from the beach. He was surfing and he does not look good. He is white as a ghost and he kind of looks like he's going to pass out. And so Belly's like, hold up, what is wrong with you? And he explains to her that he actually like wiped out, and when he did, his board sliced and diced him. And so she's like, okay, like, let me go help. And she runs to the bathroom to go get her supplies. And he's like, I can do it myself, no big deal. And she's like, you can barely stand. Just let me help you, you bonehead. And while she is helping him, his head is practically laying on her shoulder. And she notes that if she were to move just like 1 inch, she would be kissing him. It would be that easy to kiss him. When he has been taken care of, he goes back upstairs. Belly is having a crisis because this moment was all because of her. Unlike the peach juice fruit stand moment where he's the one who initiated everything, she is the one this time who is thinking, I really could just lean in and kiss him right now. And that's a problem because her wedding to his brother is a few days away. Yeah. But you know what? Later they pretend like nothing ever happened. Taylor and Annika and Steven arrive, and then the rest of all Jere's frat bros that he wants to be there. They arrive for the bachelor party. Annika is looking at Conrad in the distance, and Annika goes, you did not tell me how hot he was. And Taylor responds with, he's really not that hot. Ellie says, you're just mad because he never went for you. And Annika says, well, why would he go for Taylor when he was your man, Belly? Ellie says, he was never my man. Taylor responds with, oh, Belly, he was always your man. Well, not anymore. Everyone is currently making toast. Jere stands up and he's like, thank you to everyone there except Conrad. He completely leaves Conrad out. And so when Jere's like, Belly, it's your turn, come say something to people. Belly says, thank you all for traveling here today. And thank you, Conrad, for making us all food. It was delicious. And Jere's like low-key irritated that she specifically thanked Conrad. But we're gonna move forward. The wedding's happening very soon. Gotta keep it going. Belly goes to see Jere right before his bachelor party, and she brings up a moment being like, do you remember when you found that dog on the beach and then the owners came and you cried when they took him away? And Jere very sternly goes, that wasn't me. That was Conrad. No, it was you. Remember you tried so hard to take care of him? No. It was Conrad, it wasn't me. Again, let me just tell you, his whole demeanor has shifted. It has changed. He's not happy currently. And Belly's also really not happy because she's now thinking, what other memory have I remembered incorrectly? I always pride myself on remembering everything to a T. Have I been getting certain things wrong? The internal crisis is continuing on. Boys have left for their bachelor party, And Belly turns to Taylor and says, I need to tell you something. Something really weird happened, and she explains the Conrad situation. And Taylor's like, whoa, but that was it, right? Like nothing else happened? Belly shakes her and going, yeah, no, nothing else happened, but I feel so freaked out over it because I wanted something to happen and I'm getting married in like 2 days. And I can't keep thinking of him. I can't keep thinking of other boys. Taylor says, Conrad's not other boys though. He's your first great love. And while we're talking about this, there's something I need to tell you and get off of my chest. Taylor goes on to say, Conrad went to go see Laurel and that's why she's coming to the wedding. That's why she went to the bridal shower, because Conrad went to her. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to get all mixed up over Conrad again because you love Jere, right? Like you're in love with Jere. And Belly's like, uh-huh. And Taylor goes on saying, are you sure? Because it's not too late right now. We can hop in a car and pretend that this never happened. It is perfectly fine. Belly goes, I don't need to do that. It's fine. We don't need time. We're perfectly fine. We're going to be getting married very, very soon. It's fine. What a conversation to have days before you're getting married. What a conversation. And because of this conversation, Belly couldn't sleep that night. And so she wakes on up. She goes over to her dresser. She's kind of digging through some of the drawers and she finds this glass unicorn. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, glass unicorn, why is she looking at a glass unicorn? Let's have a flashback. I feel like we haven't had a flashback in a hot second. When the kids were younger, Susanna would drop them off at the mall or putt-putt or anything like that, and Conrad would always be the one left in charge of all of them. This time they actually were dropped off at the mall. And Belly really wanted to go to this glass blowing store because they had this glass unicorn that she really, really wanted. And so when the boys were going to the arcade, she told them, hey, like I'll meet up with y'all in an hour. I just really want to go look at this before we leave. Belly doesn't buy anything, but she spends over an hour in that store. And when she realizes how much time passed, she is now sprinting to the food court, to the nearest Taco Bell where the guys are going to meet her. And she only sees Jere and Steven. And they're like, where the heck have you been? Conrad is now looking everywhere for you. And Conrad is making his way back to them. He sees them at the Taco Bell and he is fuming. He is angry and he's basically yelling at her like, where have you been? I told you to be back here at 3. I'm the one in charge of you. If something would have happened to you, it would have been my fault. And she's crying saying, I just wanted the glass unicorn. I didn't even get it. I just wanted the glass unicorn. I'm so sorry. And she could tell that he felt really bad for yelling at her and making her cry. And they just kind of like moved forward from them. He was like, it's okay, just like don't do it again. Next time we all hang out, like we're not splitting up. None of us are ever splitting up ever again. And that year for her birthday, when August rolled around, Conrad gifted her a glass unicorn. Conrad's POV, bachelor night, buckle up because from this point onward, it's a doozy. It's a doozy. Conrad decided to be the DD and take care of everyone. And while he's taking care of everyone, he's just kind of hanging out and he hears one of Jere's friends throw his arm around Jere and go, dude, I can't believe you're finally gonna close with Belly. And Conrad's like, oh, interesting. They haven't been together yet. Keeps talking very loudly, mind you. And he keeps saying, dude, it's almost like you have never hooked up with anyone either because it's been so long since you got with Lacey. And Conrad is seeing red. His fists are clenched and he could just hurt someone. When he sees Jere go to the bathroom, he's like, you know what, I'm about to knock some sense into this boy. I told her to treat her right and he hooks up with someone named Lacey? But then he goes to Jere and he just hears Jere just like throwing up in the toilet, just vomiting in the toilet. And so he's like, you know what, I'm gonna wait a little bit to knock some sense into him. The boys come back home, they're a little rowdy, and so Belly gets woken up. She sees that Jere's, well, he's a few sheets to the wind, if you will. And so she's like, where's Conrad? And Jeremiah's like, oh no, he was with us. And Belly was like, okay, so I'm gonna go try and find him to make sure that he is okay. And she ends up seeing him sitting on the lifeguard stand. So she's like, come on down from there. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna stay up here for a little bit. And so she makes her way up there, like, fine, I'll climb up here and sit up here too. And make some small talk being like, did y'all have fun? He doesn't say anything. And eventually, after the silence, Conrad blurts out, I have to tell you something. Jere cheated on you when he went to Cabo. One of his friends was bragging about it tonight, and I really didn't want to have to tell you like this. And I didn't want to have to be the one to tell you, but you deserve to know. You had the right to know. Belly takes in a deep breath. She's not even looking at Conrad. She's looking in front of her and she's like, I know. To which Conrad goes, you knew? You knew and you're still marrying him? Belly says he made a mistake. You're kidding me. Like, you're kidding me, right? He cheated on you and you're now defending him. Conrad, it's none of your business. Conrad goes on saying, none of my business. He's my brother and you're my... Take note of that. Take note of that pause. He then goes on to say, I never thought you would be the type of girl who would put up with that from a guy. Belly then says, I put up with way worse with you. I never once even looked at another girl when I was with you. Not once. I thought you knew that. Well, you thought wrong, Conrad. She's now walking away and he runs up behind her to stop her. She has spinned out of his grasp. She's walking in the opposite direction. Conrad hollers after her, I still love you. This is the night before her wedding. Timeline, this is the night before her wedding. Drama. Belly is frozen in her steps and she just goes, don't say that. Don't say that. Conrad has unleashed something because he just keeps on going saying, I don't know if I'll ever get you out of my system. Belly says, you're just saying that all of a sudden because I'm marrying your brother. It's not all of a sudden, Belly. Just tell me, why are you getting married now? Just live together. In this moment, Belly is actually thinking to herself, I've asked myself that very same question. I don't have an answer for anyone. But she doesn't tell him that. It's too emotionally charged of a moment to tell him that. She continues to start to walk away again, and he literally wraps his arms around her, pleading for her to stop. He says, 2 years ago, I messed up. I didn't sleep that night in the motel. I was trying to figure out what to do. I knew that I loved you. And I knew that I shouldn't. I didn't have the right to love you after everything I put you through. My mom had just died and I had so much anger inside of me. And I didn't have it in me to love you the way you deserved. But I knew that jere did. If I kept you, I was just going to keep hurting you. I had to let you go, but this summer, you the way we used to, you looking at me the same way you used to. He's my brother and I hate myself for doing this. But when I see you two together, I hate him. Don't marry him. Be with me. Don't marry him. Be with me. Be with me. He's sobbing, mind you. Like literally sobbing as he's getting out all of these words. She pushes him off of her and says, you and I will never be what jere and I are. He is my best friend and you and I were never anything. The second she says this, she sees the light in Conrad's eyes just die. She starts to walk back to the house, but she doesn't make her way in because she knew that jere was going to question her. So as soon as she could no longer see Conrad, she sank in the sand and she just cried. She then goes into the house, gets into the same bed as jere, and says, I love you, to his back while he's asleep. The next day is awkward as can be. Conrad is trying to apologize and Belly is just like, stop. I don't want to hear it. And he also says, I barely remember what I even said. I just know that it was probably out of line. And Belly was like, you didn't drink anything last night. Yeah, I did. I definitely did. I definitely did. That's why I don't remember anything. This just makes Belly so angry because she just says, you brought all of that up right before my wedding. And now you have the nerve to tell me you don't remember any of it? Like, what kind of twisted game is this to you? She then says, I want you gone. Conrad says, I'm not leaving. What do you expect me to say? What do you want from me? To tell you that you just broke my heart last night? I still love you, Conrad says. I never stopped loving you. I think you know it and I think you've known it this whole time. And I'm not gonna pretend for you anymore. I'm not gonna do that. She has this sinking feeling in her chest that she is never going to be able to let him go. But she also can't walk away from jere. If she chases Conrad, she could never go back. She would be betting her whole life on him, and she couldn't do that. Not with the amount of times that he has let her down. It's too risky. Conrad point of view. He is kind of high on life, even though he's a little disappointed because he's like, I've told her, I've finally gotten off my chest. It is now off my plate. And he is also like, I don't need to hear her say it back because I know from the way she was looking at me this morning that she's still in love with me too. I saw it. And now he's just thinking, where does this leave us? Where on earth does this leave us? And also, why didn't I tell her a year ago, a month ago? Why did I wait until like 24 hours before her wedding? She probably would have left with me if I had done it earlier. If I would have done it last week, she probably would have left. He sees Taylor and Taylor says, what on earth did you say to Belly last night? And Conrad doesn't say anything and she goes, you're probably the only one who can stop this wedding from happening. You better be sure that you still want her. Because if not, you're just ruining her life for the fun of it. Be the good guy that she always claims that you are. And let her go, once and for all. Conrad is now really conflicted because in his mind, he was like, I can fight for her. I know that I'm still in her heart. I will go down swinging. And then he's thinking to himself, well, if I do that, then I'm not the good guy she tells everyone that I am. I'm the bad guy. Rehearsal dinner's going on and Conrad feels like he is going to lose his mind because he is having to watch Belly and Jeremiah be all lovey-dovey on the eve of their wedding. After this dinner, Laurel can see that he is having a tough time, and so she's like, let's go get a drink. She's asking him, like, how are you doing? And he looks at her and goes, honestly, it's killing me right now. Laurel says, I know you love her, and I know that this is so hard on you. We'll get through it together, you and me. I just really wish your mom was here. We really need her right now, don't we? And Conrad nods his head and he cries on Laurel's shoulder. Back to Belly's POV. Belly knocks on Jere's door and she's like, I need to tell you something. Conrad told me that he has feelings for me last night. Jere doesn't say anything, so Belly's like, I'm just gonna keep talking. I gotta get this off my chest. She's like, I told him I didn't feel the same way. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I didn't want to. And he interrupts her. I am going to hurt him. Why are you still protecting him? Are you just marrying me to erase him at this point? And she's shaking her head being like, no, no, no. And Jeremiah goes, I don't believe you. I see the way you look at him and you've never looked at me that way. Belly's like, I know me and him have a past, but can we just forget that and make our own future? And then goes, if it's so in the past, why didn't you tell me about December? I told y'all to remember that night. I told you. Maya says, I knew all about it. I learned about it that week because Conrad told me that he saw you and I've been waiting for you to bring it up and you never did. And then Belly says, we're still getting married tomorrow, right? You and me? Jere says, I need some space. I need to take some time. I need some space. It's now the day of the wedding. Laurel has come into Belly's room. She's looking at her and she's like, you look so beautiful. Are you gonna put your dress on yet? And she's like, no, not yet. Not time. She's anxious because she hasn't heard from Jeremiah. Doesn't know where he is. And Laurel just says, here, you need to have this. This is from Susanna. She wrote it to you for your wedding day. Once Laurel leaves, Stephen comes in and he's like, Jere is still not back. And now Belly's like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, crisis mode. Stephen also says that Conrad has now gone after him. And some time has passed. Stephen has returned and said, oh, Conrad brought him back. Conrad and Jere are here. Stephen then says before he leaves the room, I got 5 words for you, Belly. Go big or go home. Now I know all of y'all are thinking, wow, that was the fastest chapter recap you could have ever given us, Sav. That is so true because that is how that chapter went down. But let's go into Conrad's POV so that y'all know exactly what happened when Conrad found Jere. Because it's messy. On his way to go find Jere, Conrad runs into Laurel. Laurel's like, oh my goodness, actually next time you see Jere, can you give him this? And it is a letter that says Jeremiah on the front, obviously from Susanna for his wedding day. And she goes, I just think Susanna would want it to be from you. And so while he's on the hunt for Jeremiah, Conrad has his letter in his back pocket. He found Jere. Jere went to the women's shelter and he's sitting on the bench. Conrad looks at Jere and says, we don't have time for this. Just get up and punch me and we can move forward. Jere looks at him and says, no, you'll feel better and you don't deserve it. Conrad says, don't make her wait on her wedding day. Jeremiah lunges at Conrad and says, don't talk to me about her. If you have feelings for her, why did you give me permission? I did the right thing in this scenario. I asked you. Conrad then goes, really? You asked me when you were making out with her when I was going to go take my exam? That's when you asked me? That was you doing the right thing. I gave you the go-ahead because I knew that you would take care of her. I trusted you. And then you went and cheated on her in Cabo? Maybe I should be the one asking you right now, Jere, do you even love her? This is when Jeremiah throws that first punch and it lands right in Conrad's jaw. Jeremiah goes, you are a coward. You won't even admit to me that you love her. Conrad says, fine, I love her. And I'll admit it, sometimes I think that she's the only person out there for me. But she chose you. She wants to marry you, so let's go. And here, take this. It's from Mom. And it's the letter from Susanna, obviously. Jere starts to read the letter and he begins to cry, saying, okay, I'm going back, but I don't want you there. You're not my brother anymore. I hope everything you said to her was what you wanted to say because you will never see her again after today. He then hands Conrad his letter and says, this is yours, not mine. And he leaves. Conrad sits on the bench. He opens the letter that had Jeremiah's name on the envelope. But when he unfolded the letter, it said, Dear Conrad, Back to Belly's POV, she hears someone knock on the door. She lets them in. It's Conrad. Comes over to him being like, oh my gosh, your face. Cause you know, he got hit, he's bruised. He got punched in the face. And then she's like, you shouldn't be here. Jared's gonna be here any moment. He can't see you in here. And Conrad says, I need to say something to you. I think you've said plenty. Conrad starts walking away and then he stops, looks at her and goes, do you remember infinity? What about it, Conrad? Here, catch, he tells her, and he throws her a jewelry box that has a silver necklace with a little infinity pendant on it. Remember this necklace from the previous book, please and thank you. It says, I bought this for your birthday. And if we go back to the first book, you will recall that on her 16th birthday, it was the only birthday that he had not bought her a gift. In their whole lives, it was the only birthday that he forgot. In quotation marks, because this is actually what he bought her. He just didn't gift it to her then. He then says, it belongs to you and it always has. I was too afraid to give it to you back then. You need to know that whatever happened was worth it to me. Loving you was worth it for me. He went over to Belly and he kissed her on her forehead. Then he leaves the room and Belly notes that this feeling was worse than death. Let's do one final flashback to when Belly was 16, Conrad was 18. This is their first Valentine's Day together as a couple. Belly knew that she was not going to see him this day because he had classes until 7 p.m. And she was like, it's not a big deal. I don't need chocolates for him. I don't need flowers for him. It is what it is. She's in her room. She gets a text from Conrad and it says, go to the window. She runs to the window and she sees that Conrad has driven to her. He has a picnic blanket on the ground and all these little snacks and such. And so she runs downstairs and he's like, let's stargaze. Let's look up at the sky tonight. And that's really all that they do. They lay down on the blanket and they just look up at the sky. She tells him that lying here with you, looking at the stars makes me feel like I'm lying on a planet. So wide, so infinite. He then tells her that he knew that she would understand and that she would get it, and that sometimes he doesn't think that he will ever trust anyone else as much as he trusts her. And this is a direct quote that Belly was thinking that day. So no, on Valentine's Day, he didn't give me flowers or candy. He gave me the moon and the stars. He gave me infinity. Present day, Jere has finally made it into the room. He needs to talk to Belly. He then says, isn't it bad luck for the bride and groom to see each other on the wedding? And then she goes, so there is going to be a wedding. Well, I'm already dressed and you're already dressed. Might as well get married. Belly then says, where did you go? Jere tells her, I just needed time, but I'm ready now. Let's do this. Okay, but like, can we please talk about it? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it ever again. He says, I want you. I'm always here for you. I want all of you, and you are holding back from me. Know that I don't have your whole heart, and how do you think that that makes me feel? Knowing that I am forever your second choice. Knowing that it was supposed to be you two. Knowing it was always supposed to be Belly and Conrad. I thought I could do this, but I don't think I can. Not unless you look me in the eyes right now and tell me that you don't love Conrad. Belly replies with, I love you. That's not what I was asking you. Belly says, I do think a part of me will always love Conrad, but I choose you. I am choosing you. Jere says, that's not enough. I want you. I want all of you. That's not enough for me. He walks towards the letter that Susanna wrote for Belly and he goes, you still haven't read it yet, have you? I got one too, but it was addressed to Conrad, so my mom must have gotten them mixed up. She told him that she has only seen him in love one time. And it was with you. I won't be the reason that you don't go to him. I won't be your excuse. Always known this, and I still asked you to marry me. But he's gonna let you down. He will, because it's what he always does. And as y'all can predict, there was not a wedding this day. They did not get married. In fact, Stephen and the rest of Jeremiah's frat bros are the ones that picked up all the chairs, moved everything back inside, and wrapped it all up. Jeremiah and Belly broke up that day. It is now a couple years later, and we are finally reading the letter from Susanna to Belly that's supposed to be read on her wedding day. Susanna goes, my dearest Belly, I'm picturing you on your wedding day. You look radiant and beautiful. I picture you marrying a man who is solid, with kind eyes, and is wonderful and amazing, even if his last name isn't Fisher. You're my special girl, and watching you grow up was the biggest honor of my life. Be happy and be good to one another. All my love, Susanna. Belly is thinking, oh, if you could see us now. I'm 23, about to be 24. Jere and I broke up. Jere ended up living in the frat house that next semester, and I got to live with Annika. I chose to study abroad my junior year. I went to Spain. Spain's when I got my first letter from him. And not just any letter. I ain't talking email. I'm talking handwritten carrier pigeon type letter. Romance. But oh. And this is Belly's thoughts, by the way. She goes, I didn't write back. Not at first. And the first time I saw him again was at my graduation. And I just knew. He's kind and he is good and he is wonderful. And you know what? He does have the last name Fisher. And she's wearing the dress that her and her mother picked out together. She is freshly married. This last part of this book, we've already seen and heard from the end of the second book. This is that callback. Let's talk about it one more time. One more time, let's relive it. They are running to the car. He opens the door for her and he asks, "Are you sure?" She laughs and says no. Everyone's gonna be expecting them at the reception, but it's okay, it's their wedding day, they can wait because no one else can do the first dance to stay if they're not there. She sees Jere out of the car window and he waves to her and smiles real big. Conrad opens his door, gets in the driver's seat, and says, "Let's do this." Parks right on the sand, and it's still raining outside, so it doesn't matter if the clothes get wet. And they run towards the water. He picks her up. She looks at him and goes, "You better not get any ideas of belly flopping me because I will take you down with me." Conrad smiles at her saying, "I go wherever you go." They are married, her and Conrad. Conrad, the first boy she ever loved. And that is the official end of the third book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series, but the end of my book, my edition, had the letters that he wrote to her while she was in Spain. So I think we should talk about those two to really, really conclude this series. First letter, Conrad goes, "I don't know if this is allowed, but Laurel let me know where you were at and I really just wanted to write to you. I just went over to Laurel's house to help fix the computer and I went to your room because that's where the printer is now and I saw Junior Mint. You remember Junior Mint? I won him for you and I remember because I spent $30 to $40 on that thing. And he's mad at you because you left him behind. He feels so lost without you." So here he is. So with that letter, he also mailed Junior Mint to her. In letter 2, Belly does not respond right away. Like, Belly has not responded by now. Keep that in mind. Conrad goes, "This is so weird writing to you." And, "Oh, you're welcome, by the way, for Junior Mint. Gosh, I was hoping for a thank you card from you. I was. Conrad goes on saying, "I should be working on homework, but this is really all I want to be doing right now." Laurel also told me that you got lost looking for Sour Patch Kids. So here is the biggest bag I could find. I hope you enjoy. And I really hope that you're happy. Next letter, Conrad writes, he goes, "So far I've written you 3 letters and you've written me, oh yeah, none. Oh, I heard you met some guy in Spain. By the way, he rides a scooter." Really, Belly? A guy with a scooter? I don't really know what you see in a guy like that, but honestly, I don't know what you saw in a guy like me either. The next letter, Conrad says, "You didn't write back. I was positive that you were going to. I went over to Dad's house and I saw that Jere was there and Jere actually talked to me this time. This is big for us. He told me that you guys are currently talking and that you also cut your hair." And honestly, I didn't want it to, but it really affected me that he told me that he's been able to talk to you and hear from you. But I don't think he hates me anymore, which is the important thing. Also, in case you can't tell, I think about you a lot. Basically, all the time. I am thinking about you. Next letter, it's Christmas. He went to Cousins. He's going through all the old family portraits that Susanna used to paint, so he's mentioning those to Belly. And do you remember you and me last Christmas here? Easily the best Christmas of my life. This is the final letter, but it is from Belly to Conrad. She goes, "When I come home, you better show me those family portraits and you best believe I'm taking it back with me." Yes, I do remember last Christmas. It is also my favorite. For years, Conrad kept this specific letter from Belly in his wallet. This is what kept him hoping. Wanted to keep it with him always. But Belly told him that it needs to go with the rest of the letters where they belonged. And that is the end, the official end of the Summer I Turned Pretty series. If you made it to the very end of this video, y'all are amazing. And please leave an emoji in the comments down below so that I can see who the real ones are. Anywho, thanks for being here. This is already a long video as it is, so I will see y'all later. Bye, everyone.